The night of December, cold, freezing December, leaving an imprint of the suffocating boots on my thighs, lines that resemble the strong whispers of the chilly air, aloof yet unscathed. I stroll around picking pieces of my shattered self, wedges that fit perfectly into the frame, now look bent enough to not hold on to its edges. I can see the bigger picture, but not the fragments that make it. Street lamps feel like a dagger in the eyes. The happy face, the sheer mockery of all my life decisions, and the lively voices of pedestrians, a paranormal activity. I do not know what's normal, the supposed happiness or the stinging pain eminent from the never-fulfilling void my life has become. Just grab a drink, an intuitive voice inside me says. It's the holiday season. A drink would be the least holiday behavior you have shown in months. My eyes fall upon the cheap pub across the street, a place I would be hesitant to visit a year back, now looks like where I need to be. Amidst the indigents who least care about the whereabouts of the people inside. Taking a deep breath of the air mixed with the luring scent of freshly baked cookies, expensive wine, and luxuries on my side of the pavement, I cross the road towards the nauseating smell of cheap rum and cigar. Walking up to the bar is a challenge in itself. But the horde inside is the least of my concern tonight. I need to be free enough to accept my obsolete marriage, which already shattered the soul to its core. I am needy and desperate, but most importantly, in search of tranquility within these four walls of chaos. I placed my order. A rum and coke, please? Couldn't think of anything more basic for a place as such. I whisper under my breath. Or couldn't convince yourself to explore the potential it holds. I hear a voice next to me. I turn around to find a young lad, perhaps unjust to be hanging in a place so brassy, inches away from my neck. Having him so close suddenly evokes the long-lost passion that lingered around my body, unsatisfied for years. Moving away swiftly with a gesture that wailed the opposite, I replied, "That's one way to put it. Perhaps this is all you have been to." He smiled at me. It was the most enchanting smile I have seen in years. He pulls his chair closer to mine and grabs a drink right from across, compelling me to sniff the raspberry breath against my lips, and leaves a wink appealing enough to push me further into the conversation. Mixed with the cheapest whiskey, my desire to smell his sweet breath escalates beyond control. I try to look seemingly unbothered. Eventually, he returns, this time with a proposal to venture into something deeper and somewhere much quieter. He doesn't seem to care at all about my marital status. Maybe it's his pattern to pick on needy women, or maybe the desperation inside me was simply readable. Either way, having to not remember the same frustration I've been trying to run away from seemed like much relief. I never believed in an open marriage. I still don't. But it hasn't exactly been a treat to sever on forever. We chose a colossal abode as a home, but refused to look into the eyes of each other. Maybe if we did, the shallow spaces would reflect on themselves. Reflecting for a second, I hesitate but don't deny. Something about him blazes this fire of seduction inside that uproars every time he opens those beautiful lips. Holding my hand, he escorts me out. At this moment, I am in my teens again. I can feel butterflies in my stomach, making me overwhelmed and nauseous. I know I want him, a young man in his early 20s with a woman who's touching 40 isn't conventional. But neither of us are bothered by this fact. 15 minutes into the conversation, and my mind gets impatient with dopamine doubling every second. The pleasure to watch him talk about galaxy and beyond, destiny and momentum, make me the most alive I've been in years. The night is still young. We are in the backyard of a creaky building that looks older to my grandma, sitting side by side, talking about almost anything that comes up, both waiting for an excuse to wind up into each other's arms, burning with the same desire to collide together into the pitch black infinity. He looks at me with longing eyes and gently brushes the strands around my face. I close my eyes. My heart is beating each second faster than the other. Slowly our lips meet, eyes still closed. I try to recollect the memories of something so seductive that I have experienced at recent. Nothing but remorse for disappointing myself is what I can remember. His lips are soft, like a velvet touch, slowly exploring every chamber hidden between these red lips. I feel something so enthralling. I gasp for air and pull him back for more. My body longed for the desire to be touched everywhere. He grabs my inner thigh and my heart skips a beat. I can feel the goosebumps right between my thighs, racing upward to my bare back. My conscience wants me to stop, but my raging hormones wants to melt inside the warm embrace of this young man. I search for a medium to sustain while wishing to let it go. He pulls his lips away, making me look into his bright eyes. I'm still in his arms. He moves his face closer to my ears and whispers, "Do you want to take it upstairs?" I stand in a dilemma between morality and lust, wishing to find a gray shade. I can incline towards. I want him as much as I don't. I swiftly nod my head for him to lift me on his arms within seconds, feeling his toned body throughout the stairs. I try to resist the nasty imagination of how it would look above me. When we reach the top floor, I take a deep breath. This is where my morality is losing a battle with my impulses. After a brief pause, he offers me a drink as a formality, which I decline fast enough for him to push me towards the walls, this time stronger. He pins both my hands and feels every inch of my skin while kissing me, passionate enough to tempt me for more. I recall all the memories of my high school midnight adventures. Something inside me wants to relive them. I push him away, just enough to tease him. "You must really hate me right now," I whisper in his ears. "You bet I do." He gasps in between kisses. Thrilled by the mere thought of it, I bury my head into his soft tan chest. Fingers clenched hard enough to scratch his back. He reaches for my dress, undressing me bit by bit, with his mouth cold enough to give me thrills of pleasure. Runs his hands through my curves, lifts me, pushes me towards the bed. I am a woman, not a young girl with tight skin and a toned body that he's made love to. Mindful of insecurities of my post-pregnancy cellulite, I turn my head away in denial to watch him in disgust. A minute passes. I turn back to surprisingly find him gazing at me with the same flame of desire he had earlier. Picking a piece of ice from the bucket beside, he runs his nose around my body with ice between his lips. I roll my eyes in excitement. This is the most pleasure I've experienced in years. He embraces each of my scars with a kiss, each cellulite with a caressing touch, and each stretch marks like they were the waves of the ocean. My confidence boosts enough to look him into the eyes and let him know what I want. He smiles, the same deceptive smile that dragged me into this very moment. Running his lips through my neck, leaves a passionate kiss arousing enough for me to clench onto the bedsheet for control. I try my best to silence myself from the screaming that's going on the insides. I want to moan, let him know how I feel, but the trait to suppress any of my emotions aids me enough to portray myself as a satisfied woman, which I never was. His gentle lips gradually reaches my bosoms. I let out a little cry of delight as it reaches the peak, his tongue circling through, making me aroused enough to beg already. Just at that moment, I see the flame ignite into a blazing fire of yearning and infatuation. Our skin feels warm as the winter sun, wrapped onto one another. "You like the feeling?" he whispers. My lips don't utter a word, recollecting the moments of what just happened. I nod a simple yes. He goes back into burying his face on my skin deep enough to penetrate every corner with his gaze. He reaches down, touches me in between my thighs, and looks at me with expectant eyes, his fingers ready to create magic. I raise my brows as a hint. This time he kisses me, more intense than ever. I can feel the soft breeze escaping his fingers. My legs go numb. I feel something wet trickle from my eyes and below. Both were fluids of their kind, of the joy, of freedom, of glee. Burying his face between my thighs, he takes me to such a secluded land of delectation that I believe no one's ever visited. I roll my eyes back, not wanting my soul to leave my body. The minutes of ecstasy that I am tasting at this moment is worth every bad decision this can never turn out to be. I now see the jade locket of his neck hanging above me. I know the time has come. Time to let go of all the frustrations I've felt for what seems like an eternity. Time to cherish. Time to be free. I can feel him deep inside me. Deep enough to bring out the young, untamed girl inside for action, but gentle enough to make the lady inside bite her hands in an embarrassment of the libidinous excitement. We switch positions, switch places. He comforts me enough to let go of my hand, to accept that it's okay to be vulnerable, to understand the actual meaning of orgasm. This night isn't about him. For the first time, it's about me. It's about us. We make love for hours, our bodies dripping with sweat and juices, each adjusting to the definition of contentment. Each of my fantasies subsisting itself from the buried grave of societal shame. Surprised by the feeling that's reinstated with each of the grindings in motion, my faith in destiny grows ever so strong to have changed a night of dejection into a beautiful span of sheer happiness. I have known rich women in my social circle and criticized their adulterous behavior all my life, never finding the justification of the flamboyant and distorted lifestyle of their husbands as valid. Today, right in front of me, I can see the entire film roll, picture by picture, compelling me to understand each of their actions by far. It didn't feel wrong to me anymore, just what they rightly deserved. Here, I stood in front of my principles, asking a stranger to worship my hips and waist, to touch me at places and savor the nectar I have been saving up for years. Those eyes are unknown, but feel like they have been reconciled. That body never hovered over me before, but feels closest to home. I feel like the touches baptize me into a strong-headed woman with expectations she'd want to meet. Feel like a woman who learns to live again. I never try to defend my actions. I never will. But the need to justify a woman's desire for a healthy sexual relationship between all the problems she tries to overlook counts as non-essential to me. Here I lay in bed with a man half my age, wrapping my curves with his hands and his heads on my bosoms, sleeping what seems like the most relishing sleep of his life. Here I lay in denial to think about the consequences that comes with the sunrise, just hoping for the night to turn into an endless feat of relishing fetishes.